Half of all jobs will disappear within the next 25 years.
Economists are predicting that 47% of all jobs across the world are going to be stolen.
Imagine strolling through a lively city street where you can hear the distant clink of a manual elevator, the voice of a telephone operator connecting calls, and the rhythmic tapping of typewriters. These sounds once represented vital jobs that kept society running smoothly. But today, they have all but disappeared, overtaken by the relentless advance of technology and progress. So what were these important jobs and what led to their decline? Join us as we embark on a journey through time to rediscover the lost professions that helped shape our world. Elevator Operator.
For more than 25 years, James Wadke has been an elevator operator in downtown Milwaukee. Soon technology will replace him once the building's renovations are complete.
Before automatic elevators became common, elevators were operated by attendants known as elevator operators, who control the movement using levers to stop at each floor and manually open and close doors for passengers. They typically worked in high-end hotels, office buildings, and department stores. Operating an elevator took skill and accuracy, since the operators had to stop the elevator car to level with each floor, which was challenging with manual controls. They also added a personal touch, greeting passengers and sometimes announcing floors on store departments. By the 1950s, self-service elevators with push-button controls were introduced, bringing safer, more efficient, and cost-effective operation. As a result, the need for human operators dropped sharply. Today, elevator operators are rare, mainly found in historic buildings or luxury hotels that preserve this service for its nostalgic charm. Telephone Switchboard Operator.
Green River Campus Operator, this is Derek. The campus is not closed due to snow tomorrow.
In the early days of telephones, switchboard operators connected calls by hand, plugging wires into the central switchboard to link callers with the right lines. This job required quick reflexes and accuracy, as operators needed to handle many calls at a time by plugging in the correct wires. Large teams worked together to manage the heavy flow of calls, making them essential in busy places like hospitals, hotels, government agencies, and major companies. Operators memorized many phone numbers and followed strict guidelines to ensure smooth communication. With the invention of automatic switching in the early 20th century, this role gradually diminished. By the 1970s, automated dialing was common, allowing people to dial correctly without operator assistance, cutting costs and boosting efficiency. Milkman.
Parents! Father! Oh my God!
There you go. Why then?
The next day.
Morning, Mrs. Gleason! Okay, right.
The milkman was a familiar figure in many neighborhoods, delivering fresh milk directly to people's doors. Each day, milkmen left bottles of milk on doorsteps or in insulated boxes, ensuring families had a steady supply of fresh dairy. This service was essential in a time when milk would spoil quickly without cooling, as home refrigerators were not yet common. Besides delivering milk, milkmen became well known in their communities. Housewives, typically at home during that day, would sometimes chat with the milkmen, leading to playful rumors about housewives flirting with them. This added a social touch to the milk delivery, making milkmen a familiar part of daily life. The need for daily delivery started to fade in the 1940s and 1950s, when home refrigerators became popular and supermarkets offered more milk options at lower prices. Typist.
They're off in the international typewriting competition, and the kings and queens of the keyboard are knocking the stuffing out of international typewriter.
Professional typists, like secretaries and clerks, were a key part of offices until personal computers arrived. They used typewriters to produce essential documents such as letters, memos, and reports, and needed to work quickly and accurately to support business communication. Typing became an in-demand skill in the early 20th century, which created job opportunities for many women. Typists commonly worked in large groups called typing pools, where speed and accuracy were crucial. The introduction of electric typewriters in the 1920s boosted productivity, But with the rise of personal computers in the 1980s and 1990s, employees could type their own documents with programs like Microsoft Word. Although the need for dedicated typists has faded, their legacy endures in today's efficient, computer-based office systems. Linotype Operator.
This is a linotype machine. It was invented back in late 1800s by Otmar Morgenthaler.
Linotype machines transform printing by casting full lines in type in hot metal, streamlining newspapers, book, and magazine production. Linotype operators controlled the machines by typing on a keyboard that placed molds for each letter, called matrices, into position. When a line was complete, a machine cast it in metal to create a slug that could be inked and printed onto paper. This role demanded high levels of skill and speed, as operators had to type precisely to meet printing deadlines. The linotype machine, introduced in the late 19th century, dramatically increased printing efficiency, allowing newspapers to publish more content each day and accelerating the spread of information. Yet with the rise of photo typesetting in the 1970s and digital publishing in the 1980s, the role of linotype operators became obsolete. Film Projectionist.
And then all of a sudden, when it runs to this point, you'll see the 4 dots. That's when you start your motor for your second reel.
Film projectionists were essential in movie theaters, making sure films played smoothly. They loaded reels onto projectors, operated the machines, and maintained picture and sound quality during the show. Projectionists needed to know how to splice reels together and make careful adjustments throughout the film. The role demanded skill and close attention as they managed equipment and handled any issues that came up. Working alone in dark booths, they had to change reels smoothly so the audience wouldn't see any breaks in the movie. The projectionist's role began to decline in the 2000s with digital projectors, which replaced film reels with automated systems, requiring far less manual input. As theaters moved to digital, the need for traditional projectionists steadily faded. Iceman. In the days before electric refrigerators, people used ice boxes to keep food cool, relying on Iceman to deliver large blocks of ice to homes and businesses. Iceman transported these blocks using horse-drawn carts or trucks, placing the ice in the icebox to help maintain a low temperature. This job was demanding, as Iceman had to handle and lift heavy ice blocks using large tongs, navigate city streets, and carry ice upstairs to apartments and businesses. The work was crucial during summer when keeping fresh food was difficult. The ice delivery industry thrived in the late 1800s and early 1900s, but with the arrival of electric refrigerators in the 1930s through the 1950s, the demand for Iceman faded as refrigerators provided a more convenient and reliable solution. Lamplighter. Lamplighters were vital workers in towns and cities, taking care of gas street lamps before electric lighting was common. Each evening at dusk, they walked through streets with long poles to light lamps and returned in the morning to put them out. The work required physical strength and accuracy, as lamplighters carried ladders and tools to replace oil, gas mantles, or candles in the lamps. They braved all kinds of weather to keep streets safe and bright, and in some places, lamplighters acted as watchmen, adding to their value. The role began to decline in the late 1800s when electric street lights appeared. By the 1930s and 1940s, electric lights were widely used, with automated systems making lamplighters unnecessary, leading to the gradual end of their role. Cigarette Girl.
Quite a few new little goodies for you, and today I want to present the cigarette tray.
Cigarette girls were popular figures in the United States and Europe, especially in the 1940s and 1950s. Wearing flashy uniforms like short skirts and pillbox hats, they walked through restaurants, bars, nightclubs, and theaters with trays full of cigarettes, cigars, and candy. These women did more than sell tobacco. They added a sense of glamour and appeal to these places. Their charm and flirtatious style often earned them extra tips from customers, making them icons of nightlife and a familiar sight in Hollywood films. Their role began to fade in the 1970s and 1980s due to declining smoking rates, rising health awareness, and stricter public smoking regulations. As cigarette vending machines spread, cigarette girls became rare, and now are mostly seen at themed events or historic venues. Human computer.
Katherine Johnson is probably the best known. She had done most of the work.
In the past, human computers were people who did complicated math calculations by hand or with mechanical calculators. They were important in fields like astronomy, engineering, and finance. Many early space programs, including NASA, hired human computers, mainly women, to calculate trajectories and other essential information. These human computers worked in teams to manage a lot of calculations, which were vital for scientific research and technology. During World War II, they calculated ballistics trajectories for the military. At NASA, women like Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson made significant contributions to space missions. Their jobs required strong math skills and attention to detail. The rise of electronic computers in the mid-20th century gradually reduced the need for human computers as machines became faster and more accurate. Telegraph Operator.
And the story of a cutting-edge texting device essential to the Civil War, the telegraph.
Telegraph operators were essential for communication during the 19th and early 20th centuries. They sent and received messages using Morse code, a system of dots and dashes that represent letters and numbers. This job was vital, especially in remote areas where telephone lines were unavailable. Operators worked in telegraph offices, usually located in train stations or post offices. They tapped out messages on telegraph keys, which were transmitted over long distances through wires. Receiving operators decoded the messages and delivered them to the intended recipients, allowing for quick communication across large distances. The job required great skill and focus, as operators needed to be precise in their timing. The invention of the telephone and the rise of email and the internet eventually made telegraphy less necessary. Knocker up.
Knocker-upper. Weird jobs in history. Before cheap and reliable alarm clocks were widely available, people relied on knocker-ups or knocker-uppers to wake them up. This was a human alarm clock.
Human alarm clock. A knocker-up was someone hired to wake people for work by tapping on their windows with a long stick. This job was common in industrial towns in Britain when affordable alarm clocks were not available. Knocker-ups used long poles, usually made of bamboo, to reach windows or higher floors. Some even used pea shooters to wake their clients. During the Industrial Revolution, the role of a knocker-up was essential as workers needed to be on time for their shifts. They walked the streets early in the morning, ensuring people woke up. Knocker-ups were paid a few pence each week for their services. The job began to decline in the 1930s and 1940s when affordable alarm clocks became available. And by the 1950s and 1960s, electronic alarm systems further reduced the need for them. Many important jobs from the past have vanished, leaving behind fascinating stories and lessons. What forgotten profession do you find most interesting? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing content on history and lost professions.